What's up, everybody? It's Destin George Bell, your Wendal content guy, and I'm here with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Mark Nagy. How you doing, man?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you?
I can't complain. First, before we really get started here and dive into Wendal, I wanted to get a little bit of a background on you and what your role is with the team. So I would love to hear you explain it a little bit.
Okay, just a little bit of background on me. I have a PhD in something called industrial organizational psychology. I taught in a master's graduate program total for 26 years. 21 of them were at Xavier University. And I also had a consulting business since 2005. So that's a little bit about me. My role at Wendal, I am the Chief Research and Behavioral Officer. And that basically means that any of the assessments that we use, like TeamPrint, for example, I make sure that they are valid, which basically means that they measure what we say they measure. So that's primarily what I do. And then I also, given my consulting experience, will work with their clients to customize not the assessment, but the use of the assessment.
So basically the data science nerd guy.
Yes.
You're doing a lot of...
I am, but it's funny because
nerds run the world, though.
No, well, I think it's fun. So I don't think it's geeky or dweeby or anything like that. I mean, I think it's really cool because it brings the numbers to life for me, and that's what I really enjoy about it.
Right. No, and I definitely agree with that. Data is really interesting, especially when you can really piece all the numbers together and get it to tell a story of something like Wendal, where you can see how they all interconnect and turn into very specific profiles that are, very accurate, 99.9% accurate, maybe 100% if you're feeling confident enough to say 100% accurate. Wow. Speaking of which, that's a perfect segue to talk a little bit about TeamPrint. So TeamPrint is the product within Wendal that we talk about the most. It's the one that most of my content is centered around. So talk to me a little bit about TeamPrint.
TeamPrint's really interesting in that it can predict who's going to be successful in different situations. And even more importantly for me, something that I think is impressive is that we call it TeamPrint because it helps not only to select an individual for a particular position, but also an individual that will fit within a team. And if you think about any company that's hiring someone, yes, they're hiring an individual, but by definition, they're hiring somebody into an organization, which is a collection of people. So really, they're hiring somebody into a situation that's a team environment. People have different gifts, and if you use those gifts to complement each other, that the team itself will become more productive. Right. So I think it's cool.
Yeah, it's very cool. And I've played around with the platform myself and I've seen it. I think one thing that differentiates Wendal beyond just the entire assessment itself and how accurate it is and how fleshed out it is in terms of all the different personalities, profiles that people have. I believe it's 22 total, 4 under each of the main quadrants and then 6 under the balanced and non-conforming quadrant, which I guess, does that make it like a quintet? Is that a word?
You know what? We call it quadrants plus one,
Quadrant plus one. We should pioneer a word for that, like quintrant, or I don't know. Anyway, we'll strike out the record. We'll put a pin in that, right? We'll put a pin. Right. An influencer in me. I just want to create some stuff. Which brings me to another question that I had for you, because one of the things that I have been thinking a ton about is for this test. Oh my God, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God, I just lost it. I just lost the question in the middle of my question. Wow. Yeah, what I wanted to know was some of the use cases that you guys have seen for TeamPrint from some of the clients you guys are already working with.
Well, yeah, and not to sound like a commercial, but in our manual, we have several case studies that we talk about. And in a way, that would be the best case to find maybe what particular situation fits a particular client. And we're building a selection process for a specialized lawyer. And this particular law firm is looking for an attorney that is a bit outside the box, if you will, but yet can still generate, and this particular attorney generates a lot of revenue. And basically they're saying, how can we clone him? So what we're doing, again, is first what we're doing is we're finding out what it is about him and people that are like him, distinguish him from other and them from other attorneys or personality makeup. And then when we've got that information, then it's just it's simply a matter of, and in fact, we've got something called a job profile selector that's really cool. That once we identify that we call it the wheel. That's how we represent the different traits. 6 of those traits will light up and become more prominent. That could be a good fit for that particular whatever position it is.
Right. Yeah, and I definitely see that from what I've looked at it, that it just seems like it's an optimal tool for figuring out who fits well with who, and then how you can go about duplicating a role in terms of delegation, or if you just want to find somebody who can complement you. Like for me and you would fit well because I am a on-camera goofball and knucklehead with minimal data science background. And then a guy like you has a big data science background, a strong technical understanding of what happens in the back end of this. And I think together we make a dynamic Wendal team. But
what you're saying, what you're saying is that you're cool and I'm a nerd, and together we're good.
No. But if you're saying that, then well, no. Awesome, man. Well, anything else that you think is important for anyone else to know? Is there anything that you think that I might not have been able to touch on in the questions I asked you that would be worth mentioning and talking about?
2 quick things, if I can. First, I think an important feature of TeamPrint, the assessment, is that you can't really, the questions or the items are not very transparent. There's a lot of personality assessments out there. When people take them for a job, they answer them a certain way because they kind of know if they answer it one way or the other, it'll help their chances at getting hired. There are questions, of course, on TeamPrint, but they're just literally words, and folks are supposed to respond whether or not the word describes them. And this is one of the few assessments that the faster you take it, typically the more accurate it is, because we don't want people thinking about it. We want to get their instant reactions. But through that, though, it's not terribly transparent as to what you should say yes or no to when you're applying for any kind of job. So it's not as transparent as a lot of other personality assessments that are out there. And one of the things that I really, really appreciate about Wendal, that's why I'm here, but it is because they appreciate the science that goes behind it. I mean, there is a 5-step process in building an assessment. And it's not something that you can do over a weekend. I mean, you develop a whole bunch of questions, and then you whittle them down and you test it, and then you look at the results, and then you make adjustments, and then you test it again, and then you do some statistical analysis behind the curtain to make sure that it's reliable or consistent and valid.
Well, they definitely do appreciate the science background. That's why I'm glad I get the chance to talk to the guy who understands it, because even if I poked under the hood, it'd just be a whole bunch of gears and wires and a whole bunch of nonsense to me. So I'm glad you can decipher the hieroglyphics for us a little bit. Well, hey, Mark, I appreciate you, man. And I'll definitely be having you on another time when we have some more questions as we grow our audience and we grow the people using TeamPrint. And they have a lot more questions that I cannot answer. So I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
All right, man. Take care.
Yeah, you too. See you, Mark.